Hi.
Hi.
This is take eight? Just about eight trying to record the Hamilcast.
Yep.
So it has been... I'm Gillian.
Oh, right. I'm Bianca.
I'm sorry if we seem out of it. We've done this. I'm not exaggerating.
I feel like I'm just Groundhog Day.
Yeah, just about 8 times.
Yep, just about.
Yeah. I just said to Bianca, I feel like Joanne, only I'm not freezing down to my bones. I cannot get things to work. Things that should work are not working.
Fighting with microphones, freezing down to my bones.
And then sometimes there are things like outside sources that are making things really difficult. So we had to shift gears a little bit today. We had something else planned that we had to reschedule.
Which is fine.
Which is totally fine. Things happen, clearly. Things have been happening nonstop.
Man, the man is nonstop.
I am burned, and today is ham. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm just so frustrated. Today, stop it. Stop it.
Stop it with today. But that's okay, because here we are. We have a Chernow chapter under our belts, ready to go.
Yeah.
So we're good. We were able to improvise and just on to plan B.
Yeah. And it's arguably, I think, my longest outline. It's seven fun-filled pages. Hooray. So I was texting Mike, who's not around today, but I was just texting him how it was just like, it was frustrating.
Yeah.
To have to go to our plan B.
The samples won't delay.
Yeah. But the cable. And is there another way? I don't know. But Mike had this idea, even though we kind of have to dive right into Chernow, because I mean, if the mics stay on, I don't know. If my computer before, because this recording didn't record when we explained it the other time, my computer was flashing at me. Like if you guys ever take screenshots on a computer, it just started flashing.
For no reason and stopped recording.
And from across the room, Bianca was like, what was that?
What is that?
I don't know.
Why is it flashing at me?
I don't know. It's flashing at me. But Mike had an idea, because we always like to have a relevant cocktail.
Yes, I'm now taking comfort in my cocktail. FYI.
We like to raise a glass.
That's what we do.
So
I have several glasses in front of me that I will be raising.
Yeah. And Bianca took a very good picture.
Oh,
that I just trust. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure I saw you placing things. But anyway, so Mike's idea was to start this thing called the dueling shots. Because we have the shot glasses. I'm sure many of you at home
have those Fish's Eddy shot glasses.
Yeah. Shout out to Fish's Eddy. I love that place.
Me too. It's great.
When I was a kid, my mom and I used to go there because my mom loves either old things or things that look old and cool, like mismatchy kind of.
I've always had I have a bunch of the bowls with like the skyline. And
me too. You've eaten off those bowls.
Man.
I love Fish's Eddy.
And I have like some mugs. They're great. They have great stuff.
Yeah. So Mike decided he had an idea that we make a shot called "Get the Job Done," which is actually very relevant for today. We are recording this podcast.
We are getting the job done if it kills us.
And it might.
So I hope you enjoyed the Hamilcast.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
But it's all I feel like we can't let
No, not at all.
the most amazing listeners in the world down. We have to rise up and do it. I'm sorry. I'm just okay, so Mike's shot is called "Get the Job Done," and it consists of doers, which he says we're going to spell as do-D-O -ER, like doers, because we're getting the job done. And then a dash of Jamaican rum for Ham's birthplace.
Nice.
And a splash of soda, because Mike says Bianca and I still have to drink them and be hosts.
I do have to be able to drink it.
So let's cheers. I'm Burr.
I have the Ham shot glass.
Ready?
Cheers.
We're all into the sound effects. It's good. It's not necessarily what I would, or I'm a clear alcohol kind of girl.
This is pretty clear.
But I do vodka. Like Dewar's is, to me, that's like a dark liquor. I'm more of like a flavored vodka person.
Sure.
Which also Mike now the mixologist.
Mike the mixologist
has created thank you, sirens. My favorite drink in the world, or my favorite spirit, I guess, is watermelon vodka, because it's like candy. It's like adult fruit punch. It's awesome. So Mike made a bunch of different vodka flavors from Jolly Ranchers.
That's awesome.
And now we have a bunch of...
I've never thought of doing that before.
Yeah. He Googled it. It's really delicious.
That Google is something else.
It's pretty great. Also, while we were telling that story, we had to start re-recording again. So this is like 9.
Yeah.
This is 9th time's a charm, everybody.
So, that's a thing.
That's a thing.
We also got a really cool shout out from Andrew from Cook In Dine Out on Twitter.
Yes, he has a Hamilton cocktail.
That's awesome. I think we should make that one next time.
Yes, we absolutely should. We retweeted it. So Andrew, I don't want you to think that we're just like ignoring your suggestion, but it's very there's a lot to it. It's kind of a heavy cocktail.
We could throw them together at the last minute like we just did this shot.
Yeah, it's super fancy. It looks beautiful in the picture, by the way. We will retweet it again, but there's Caribbean rum, of course.
Duh.
Hudson Manhattan rye whiskey, some allspice, some bitters. There's maraschino cherry. It's like
we're gonna have to get mixologist Mike on that one.
I know,
because I don't trust myself to make that.
Yeah, it looks and in the picture is
gorgeous. So we'll hit that cocktail up next time, and then if you have any suggestions for Hamil shots or
dueling shots,
we'd be happy to make them.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, let's get into Chernow before my computer freaks out again.
Yeah. I thought I just saw it go nuts and my heart stopped. Anyway, so we're on chapter 14, putting the machine in motion.
Interesting how it's about machines. What are you trying to do, universe? I see. Talking about machines. Damn it. There's so much happening here. We're going to talk about John Adams. We're going to talk about Angelica.
We're going to talk about
Washington, George Clinton, and some a little sprinklings of Ham's infidelity issues that people seem to be talking about.
Yep.
A lot.
Yeah.
So all right. Washington is president.
Yay, Washington.
Woo! We're both shoulder moving. Yeah. He wasn't that thrilled.
No. I feel like it feels like it was kind of forced on him.
Hamilton was super vocal about it. Washington needed some convincing. He kept saying that it made him feel like a sense of doom, a feeling of a kind of gloom.
It's great. It's exactly what you want in your first president.
Yeah, but also that shows how smart he is. Mm-hmm. If he was just like, yeah, no, I can do that.
No, of course. I think obviously he realized what a big undertaking this would be and a huge responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, Chernow even says later he had to invent a cabinet. Because there was no such thing.
That was not a thing.
As that, and he was the executive branch. Like George Washington, he was the guy.
Yeah.
He just had to invent all this stuff.
It sounds like a lot of stress.
Yeah, I don't envy them.
No.
Even though they were super flawed. Hey man, thanks for inventing all that, because there's no way. My brain can't even.
No.
Even writing these notes, I was just like, wait. That's why they're 7 pages long, because there's
just so much.
There's so much. So George Washington, of course, the president needs to be voted in.
Right.
Hamilton was on Team G-Wash.
Of course.
Forever. So his whole thing was that he didn't want anyone else being president, obviously. Mm-hmm. He knew that the success of this American experiment, if you will, was all about George Washington. It was him or nobody. Mm-hmm. So the thing about it is that back then they didn't vote for president and vice president. They just voted for 2 people.
Right.
Which was, thank you, Madison.
It is crazy that the guy who comes in second gets to be vice president.
Oh, you know what? We could change that. You know why?
Why?
Because I am the president.
So John Adams decides, thanks to Abigail Adams, and this, I think, a direct quote is in John Adams, the miniseries, where Laura Linney says to Paul Giamatti, anything lower than vice president is beneath you. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. You've done a lot. So John Adams agrees, but the scary thing is that it's all about the numbers. You can't really run for vice president.
Right. No.
So Hamilton decided that he was just going to ruin John Adams' chances. And he kind of couldn't understand that John Adams was appalled by that, because Ham was all like, no, it's not anti John Adams necessarily. It's just pro
Washington.
Washington.
At any cost.
But he was taking votes from John Adams.
Well,
And John Adams didn't know this, and John Adams asked Hamilton if he could mentor his son.
Right.
And Hamilton said yes, unbeknownst to John Adams that Hamilton on the side was just like
against him.
Yeah. So that is kind of the beginning of their whole thing. But at the same time, John Adams didn't get that many votes.
No.
He only got
34
to George Washington's
69.
Right.
So,
and Hamilton only spoke to like 8 people.
Right.
So
I mean, I don't think you can put it all on Ham.
No, I don't think so.
I think everybody loved G. Wash.
Yeah. And guess what? You got to be vice president anyway.
It's
John
great.
Adams, you got what you wanted.
It's true. But he was still pretty like bummed that he didn't get enough votes.
Yeah, I think it was an ego thing, and the fact that
he considered resigning completely and just not doing it.
Right.
Which, why did you come to the party?
Right. The party.
Hey.
I'm sure it was so funny to them.
I'm sure it was hilarious.
But think about it though. I mean, regardless of how many votes you got, and at that point, John Adams and Hamilton knew of each other. There was no bad blood there quite yet. So if you heard about this person that was, I guess in your mind, just talking all this shit about you, trying to actually put you down and take things away from you, like that is a shitty feeling.
Oh, totally. Of course.
I think that's totally valid. And of course, Hamilton was like, what?
Yeah.
I can't, why don't you understand? I can't believe this is a thing. Where it's like, Ham,
get it together.
You know. Come on. Don't act all like coy about it.
Couldn't believe it.
Oh boy.
Anyway.
You know who he really had it out for?
Billy Bob.
That's more David Lee Roth than George Clinton. George Clinton is very like,
I just want my dance floor.
Yeah.
George Clinton,
because that Ham actually had it, like legit had it out for him.
Yes.
Tried to ruin his political career.
Well, yeah, and then he teams up with Papa Schuyler to bring down George Clinton.
I like calling him Phil.
Phil?
I know that's a little too casual.
It's okay. You can call him that.
I call Alexander Alex sometimes, which I think you've called me out on this very podcast about. Where I'm like, well, why not? Everything is so formal. There's no nickname for George or Aaron or.
That's true.
You know? Don't you feel like you know these people? Everything, their whole lives are literally on paper for everyone to read and study and obsess over and sing about and rap dance about and make podcasts about and get tattoos about and make shots about. I just feel like there's an odd intimacy.
You're right.
With these people, which is very odd to say.
I feel a little more removed from Phil. I don't have the same familiarity with him.
That's true. He is. It's kind of like our good friend Alex is telling us about this guy Phil that he knows.
Right. Exactly. Anyway.
Right? Is that how that feels? Anyway. All right. So
Ham and Phil.
Thank you for appeasing me.
Head down to Barden's Tavern, which was on Broad Street. We don't have an address.
I know.
Someone must know.
I know. I Googled and it just says like this was one of the.
Google didn't know?
Google didn't know. People were talking about it, but the actual address on Broad Street.
On Broad Street.
Yeah.
We could just walk up and down Broad Street.
And just be like, this is probably where it was.
This is where it was.
Broad Street really isn't that.
It's not big. That broad. So, hey.
But it was like a business, like the business place, the business bar.
Yes. So they go there to.
Like how Michael Scott would say, where Applebee, or Chili's, where business happens. Small Businessman magazine. That's what Barden's Tavern kind of was.
Just like Chili's.
It was just like Chili's and Michael Scott and the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company.
So they go there to find a challenger to go up against George Clinton. And they come up with ye old Robert Yates.
Yeah.
The very same Robert Yates who screwed Hamilton over during the Con.
Yeah. Before, during and after.
During and after. Yeah, totally. Which, I don't know, I guess, in politics, your enemy's enemy is your friend.
Yeah, and this is actually when people say like, "Oh, it's such politics." Right. It is because after the Con, Yates came around, so Ham was like, "Okay,
cool, we're bros now."
Bros. And who else was at that meeting?
Who else?
Aaron Burr.
We keep meeting.
Yeah, he was there. He was with Yates because it was just like where everyone congregated, I guess.
So anyway, now Ham has his own squad.
Shout out to Hollis and
Hi.
Hamilton squad.
Hi, Hollis. Anyway, he's ready to go. Now he's got these guys under his belt. And he once said that in politics, as in war, the first blow is half the battle.
Right.
That sounds like you want a good jump off.
Yeah.
And then you have like the momentum to keep going.
Yeah. And I just want to make it clear that when we say challenger, it's against George Clinton in his position now, not about president.
No.
About being president.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Ham was very worried that if he got voters away from John Adams, they would also just go to George Clinton. That was like a big thing that was weighing on his mind.
Right.
So But anyway, this is all back in New York. Chernow jumps around.
He does jump around
a lot.
bit.
And it's a little hard to follow because when I'm reading with the idea of how
Outlining.
Yeah, and how are we going to talk about this?
Yeah.
I should probably just read for the enjoyment of it, huh? I feel like that would solve the problem. Thank you, car.
That car agrees.
That car agrees.
Wow. Wholeheartedly agrees.
Wholeheartedly.
So he fires at Clinton with a series of, here we go again, 16 anonymous letters.
What?
This time he writes under the name HG. Regardless, we all know it's you. Like, what?
Who else is writing
This like absurd amount of letters?
Yeah.
Gee, I wonder who it is.
Yeah. HG.
He attacks everything about Clinton, from his personality, his narrow-minded views, character, manners, his military career, like literally everything that you could possibly damage somebody's reputation or ego.
Yeah. He goes for the jugular and then some. He really, nothing is sacred. He goes after everything.
Yeah. And he says that he has proof of Clinton in the field just one time.
Yeah.
Which is like, ooh.
Yeah. Which in Hamilton, an American musical, Ham says during the cabinet battles to Jefferson, like, you didn't fight with us. Mm-hmm. I think he was very, very sensitive.
Well, yeah, very protective of this massive thing that he did and he fought in, and so many other people fought and died in.
Yeah.
And then here come these other people trying to like pull rank.
Yeah.
It's like, well, where were you?
Yeah. And I
They
think
almost died in the trench.
Yeah. You off getting out with the French.
And another thing, Mr. Age of Enlightenment, don't lecture me about the war. You didn't fight in it. You think I'm frightened of you, man? We almost died in the trench while you were off getting high with the French.
And also, I think Lawrence. I think this is the aftermath of Lawrence. He's not over it. Mm-hmm. It should have been over. Lawrence. It's just, the nature of that life of word taking forever to get there. And Lawrence just, he was trying to do the right thing, but he disobeyed orders. And I think that Chernow says earlier that something shifted in Ham and never got back. And I think when he is very vocal about things like that, it goes back to Lawrence, I think.
Most likely. So Jinx, you owe me a shot. So regardless.
Or a Coke.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, a shot I'll do.
Yates ends up losing. And New York at this point becomes bitterly divided. Clinton goes off and hires Aaron Burr to be the state attorney general. Mm-hmm. And then Chernow says that Clinton didn't really like or trust Burr, but he just did it in the name of politics. There it is again. And this is one of the first times that Hamilton probably really feels betrayed by Burr, and it just starts creating a rift.
Yeah, because Burr was at the bar as a close personal friend of Yates.
And then he turns around and just, there he goes.
Yeah.
It was up for grabs, so he took it.
He's on the up and up again. So on the other hand, now after Ham is just attacking every single thing that you could about George Clinton, whether he's right or wrong about it, someone shoots back, and under the name William Tell, which Hamilton, of course, can't understand, which is like, Ham, he doesn't understand. Like, why does it have to be so personal? I don't know. Not to be a jerk. You started it.
Yeah.
Not to sound like a 5-year-old, but don't start no shit. There won't be no shit. I don't know what to say. But here's what William Tell said. This is from page 275 for everybody reading at home. Your private character, this is about Hamilton, your private character is still worse than your public one, and it will yet to be exposed by your own works, for you will not be bound by the most solemn of all obligations. And then there are 7 asterisks. So Chernow says it's wedlock. So this guy is calling out Ham for being unfaithful already.
That's nuts.
It's the first time that Ham has ever
he's
been
saying
called
that
out
the
in
7
writing
asterisks are like in place of letters
of the word wedlock.
that spells wedlock.
Yeah, that like the most solemn of all obligations is wedlock.
That's nuts.
That's nuts. But it's
some code language, secretive.
They're word fighting. They're pamphlet fighting. But Chernow makes this, and I thought we were going to get into it a little bit more in this chapter, but he says this is the first time.
The first time, yeah.
He's been accused in writing.
How many times there are.
So maybe it makes a lot more sense that he would write the Reynolds pamphlet. If all of these accusations were in writing,
sure,
then maybe when we get to that point, it's kind of like, well, and also how you can't like go on the news. What are you going to do? I mean, I guess that's the only way. If you really wanted everyone to know what was going on,
Periscope about it.
God. But also, we'll get into the things that Hamilton did wrong in the Reynolds pamphlet.
I'm sure they're coming
when we get there.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Let's not.
So back to Washington.
He's president.
He is the president, and he is now being paraded from New York to New York from Mount Vernon. And this is just like crazy to me. He's so in debt that he had to take out loans with all these ridiculous interest rates just to make the trip to be the president.
Yeah.
What?
It's
like, that doesn't seem like a good place to start.
No. And I think he was just so like, when he was being sworn in and everyone was watching him, like he was so awkward and uncomfortable. He just didn't like all the fanfare, and he had his hand in one of his pockets.
Yeah,
and
that was people took note of that.
That he just wasn't. I feel like maybe again, it was an experiment. So maybe at that moment when everything was up in the air and they were kind of like diving into the deep end, maybe doing it in front of everyone wasn't the best idea.
10,000 people showed up.
But at the same time,
it's a lot of people.
If you're one of those 10,000 people, I'd like to know who's going to run everything.
Sure.
I see both sides.
I do see both sides. I understand.
I loved his relationship with Eliza.
Sweet. It's very sweet.
They danced together.
At the inaugural ball.
They had a very sweet affection for each other.
But she noted that he never, even during their dancing, he never stopped being president. Like he was very, stiff and just reserved and didn't necessarily quite cut loose.
Yeah, I think he was always aware of the responsibility.
Yeah, and that history had its eyes on him.
And even now I lie awake, knowing history has its eyes on me.
And especially in those intimate moments when, you're dancing and you're dancing with another woman. I don't know. It's just like everyone wants
real
to
touchy.
Everyone wants to gossip all the time. Isn't that like kind of a bummer that's the consistent thing? Everyone like talking shit and
never goes away.
And looking for, and everyone in high school and looking for things to rip you apart
it's
about.
Very true.
Gossip in New York City is.
Oh, hey, speaking of,
hey,
Angelica.
Work.
She's back.
She's back. She married a member of British Parliament, John Barker Church. So that's kind of
seems a little.
Yeah, it's kind of like the
conflict of interests.
Hamilton and everyone around him like can't really get away from this British connection in some way. But this goes into people loved Angelica.
They sure did.
They loved Angelica. She's like, the way she's described as, I'm not saying this is as a bad thing against Chernow, but the way she's described is like this like Disney princess who comes in, like people are just enamored.
Yeah. When she leaves, everyone loses their collective minds.
Eliza couldn't even see her off.
Couldn't even go see her off.
She couldn't handle it.
Hamilton wrote to Angelica after she had left, "We gazed, we sighed, we wept. Some of us are and must continue inconsolable in your absence." There was floods of tears and just weeping, and maybe you'll never see this person again. That's that's a legitimate thought.
Yeah. And the Schuyler sisters really did have this incredible bond, especially Angelica and Eliza.
Angelica, Eliza.
The Schuyler sisters.
because in their letters, there's like not this weirdness that Alex had really all this affection for her.
Right.
And he and Eliza sort of bonded over that. And they wrote about each other's affection for her to her and to each other. And it was this very, like, it wasn't this like shady, secretive thing.
No.
I mean, maybe there are letters that we'll learn about that, you know, there maybe a comma here and there.
Here and
in the
there.
middle of a phrase.
The letter I received from you 2 weeks ago, I noticed a comma in the middle of a phrase. It changed the meaning. Did you intend this? One stroke and you've consumed my waking days. It says, my dearest Angelica. With a comma after dearest, you've written my dearest Angelica.
But for the most part, everyone was really like super vocal about how they felt about her.
Yeah, well, even in one of the letters that Hamilton wrote to Angelica, he refers to Eliza as Betsy, by the way, which is adorable.
I know, I love it.
He says, Betsy and myself make you the last theme of our conversation at night and the first thing in the morning. They're just talking about Angelica left and right.
Yep.
Everyone loves Angelica.
I loved her. There's also a really great Peggy.
And Peggy?
There's a quote from, I think it's one of her letters, but it goes back to maybe this is why people were starting to talk about Ham's infidelity. Because I think it was kind of like, it was like a family thing, the Angelica Eliza thing. Like they just, maybe as an outsider, when you saw them together, you didn't know like what's going on there. But it says that at one ball, Angelica dropped a garter and was swept gallantly off the floor by Hamilton. Angelica, who had a sly wit, teased him, and he wasn't that he wasn't a knight of the garter. Angelica's sarcastic sister, Peggy, then remarked, he would be a knight of the bedchamber if he could.
What?
Oh, Peggy. So that was kind
sassy, Peggy.
I know, but it was a thing. Like, it was just,
know.
it was a thing they talked about. I don't know. But if you wanted to talk shit about Hamilton, there were plenty of other reasons. I mean, this is just one of many. I think the fact that he was very flirtatious, because there was a July 4th speech that he made that Washington wasn't there because he was sick with,
who knows,
anthrax,
or it could have been a tumor,
and
bacteria. I mean, he got really sick. He almost died. He had to sit this out.
They were operating on him. I can't even
without anesthesia.
I can't even get into what it was in his thigh. It started in his thigh. It was just a very weird. And anthrax also, because I was kind of like anthrax. Like they had anthrax back then because we know anthrax from terrorism.
Different.
But anthrax was a thing that farmers would get pretty often from livestock.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that far. It wasn't like powder in an envelope.
They operated on his leg without any anesthesia.
I know, and he survived. They didn't know he was going to make it. They didn't know if he was going to make it before the operation.
I can't. Nope. Anyway,
I bet he probably had some whiskey or something.
I hope he did.
Isn't that what they did back? That was like their only.
I guess so.
No? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I sure hope so. I don't know. For his sake,
get him hammered, I guess. But anyway, so Hamilton did this. He was doing a speech on his friend Nathaniel Greene. And instead of just talking about how great Nathaniel Greene was, he decided to talk shit about the Southern Army and mock the Southern militia and talk about how slave owners deserve to be hated. Yep. And just instead of doing like a nice thing and saying this nice speech, he just called everybody out.
Yeah.
And alienated himself
again
from a lot of people again. Like, and on one side of it, it's like, who else is left to alienate?
I don't really know.
George Washington, I guess, but
until he gets to his own family.
Again, related to that, there was a whole plan about New York and their senators, and I thought this was going to be about how Burr is the new senator in New York, but this was not that story,
right?
But at first, I thought it was. But Hamilton, of course, started more controversy because there was this whole plan. It's a little confusing. So New York needed 2 senators. There was a plan with Hamilton, the Schuylers, the Livingstons, who you remember as being like one of the most powerful, richest families in New York. And Hamilton screwed it up a little bit. A biographer of Burr's actually once said of the powerful New York families, the Clintons had power, the Livingstons had numbers, and the Schuylers had Hamilton.
Boom.
which could be great.
Which could be, I guess.
In this case, not so much.
Not so much.
So our good friend Phil was a certainty for one of the seats as senators. So he promised the Livingstons that he'd support James Duane, who we talked about with Ashley, of Duane Reade
yes.
fame.
Duane Reade fame.
But not at all, clearly. So if this went through, the Schuyler-Livingston alliance would be great and would kind of get George Clinton
out of the way.
out of the picture. But Hamilton...
That didn't happen.
No, because Hamilton ruined the whole thing. So he didn't like Duane just because he liked this guy Rufus King a lot better.
Right.
Rufus King was like this handsome Harvard... He was great. I mean, neither of them were necessarily bad, but Hamilton wanted his father-in-law and his good friend.
Right.
Like he couldn't
and they were just like more social pals.
Right.
And like, you know, he opposed slavery. And so I guess he could be like, hey, look, this guy thinks the same way I do. And
yeah. And he needed both of those people in power. He couldn't just settle for whatever. So then he convinces Philip Schuyler
to back him.
And then screw up the entire alliance. Mm-hmm. The Livingstons took it as a total FU. Mm-hmm. And he kind of rooted, and that was like another reason that he caused tension, another way for people for him to be isolated from people.
Yep.
In his home state.
Yep.
Ham. And while all this is happening, he's now Secretary of Treasury.
Oh, yeah. Remember when Washington, he just kept passing over Hamilton for everything.
I do.
And every day, sir, entrust me with a command. And every day, he dismisses me out of hand.
And it almost happened again with the Treasury Secretary position. Washington at first went to Robert Morris. He's the guy who basically financed the entire revolution.
Right.
Thank you. So obviously that makes sense why Washington would think of him to lead the Treasury. Makes total sense. Plus, you know, he knows his stuff. He's a financial genius. But
until he wasn't.
He declined, suggested Hamilton. Chernow actually says that Morris cited, quote, private reasons, whatever those are. But it was because that he was on his way to bankruptcy and debtor's prison. There we are again with debtor's prison. Yikes.
So, I mean, I guess he knew his stuff for a time.
Right. And then obviously made some wrong moves here and there. Who knows what happened. But yeah, not a good look for being the Treasury Secretary. He eventually served in the Senate, though, instead. So,
oh, good,
great,
perfect,
wonderful,
great. Him and Madison, who had a nervous breakdown going to college, so let's just put him right in the government too. But of course, once again, Washington was just like, "What? Alexander Hamilton is good at money. That's interesting. I need to look into more because that doesn't make any sense."
Yeah, no.
He said it during the war. He's saying it now. How does he not
get it?
All Hamilton does is talk about, I don't get it.
I don't
Federalist
know.
Papers, like, really, George? What's going on? You didn't know that he was Publius, George?
Yeah, really.
Come on, man.
That's true. And then, which is kind of funny, though. So the Treasury Secretary ends up being an actual huge pay cut for Hamilton. You would think, like, you're dealing with the money, you're going to get the money. Not so much.
No.
He'd only be making $3,500 a year, which was a whole lot less than he was making as a lawyer. I don't know what $3,500 a year translates to now.
Yeah,
we'll do
I should have
some
looked that up.
mathety math on that and maybe
There's a
figure it out.
website because I remember.
Is there really?
Yeah, when I was watching Mad Men and they would talk about money, I would always turn to Mike.
That's awesome.
Very distractingly and be like, "How much is that now?" So there is a website that you
I feel
can.
like that's something everybody does. What is that now? It's probably a lot.
Because when Peggy was looking for her apartment and it's this much money a month, and I'm just like, to me, it's like I'd happily pay $600 a month. What are you kidding me? But and then when she gets her anyway, that's for our Mad Men podcast.
That's for Mad Men podcast.
But he took that pay cut and then decided not to do anything else that would get him money from outside sources. So he stopped being a lawyer.
Right.
Guess what? He's the only one who did that. Washington didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Jefferson didn't.
Got rid of all of his other jobs.
Madison didn't.
Nope.
They all had this outside income coming in, and Ham was just like, "Oh no, I'm focusing on this." And I'm sure part of him was just like, "Oh man, I wish to be in the courtroom again, to argue again."
To be able to talk for 6 hours.
But guess what? I'm sure he found a way.
I'm sure he still found a way to talk.
Feel like he found a way. And then, I mean, that was also, now they're back together.
Together again.
Together forever. I was actually just YouTubing a bunch of fun musical things with my mom.
Oh, really?
And Annie was one of them.
That's fun.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Washington and Hamilton are very much like Daddy Warbucks and Annie. Exactly the same. So similar,
Hamilton
especially in the way they look.
Gets nominated and confirmed on the same day. And he's ready to go, guys. He is ready to take this by storm. The very next day, he arranges a $50,000 loan for the federal government from the Bank of New York. And then the day after that, which was a Sunday, Ham, sleep in, he worked at the office all day. Mm-hmm. And the day after that, he went to Philly, gets another $50,000 loan. It's like already, like, slow your roll.
Would you say he... yeah, I guess nonstop would be...
Something about being nonstop.
Inappropriate.
10 days after he gets confirmed, the House of Representatives asks him to prepare a report on public credit. Gave him 110 days to get it done. And this was actually a great job for him. And he's the only person who had the right tools, financial knowledge. He was a lawyer. He had the experience as public service. And he knew the Constitution in and out. So this is a great guy to have on that task.
Yeah. Is it weird that when I read that, I was like, 110 days? He can do that in a week.
I was like, I was expecting to be like, what did he do it in 5?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I guess, I mean, this is a bigger... Again, it's yet another thing that they have to just sort of invent, like pull out of thin air.
Yeah, completely.
Like a rabbit out of a hat. Just poof. Oh, here it is. Here's
are.
a cabinet. Here's a this. Here, okay, awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of cabinets,
Washington just...
up and created one. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And again, it was just sort of like, it took a while. There was a lot of trial and error. They weren't sure. I mean,
for things to like get, I'm sure, I can't even imagine how many things tried and failed.
Yeah. I think we've stressed that nothing about this was easy.
0.
Not a single thing about it. But the chapter ends on a nice note, kind of that, our two pals are back together again.
Wash and Ham.
Yeah.
Like a superhero buddy cop
movie. I was going
to
say like a buddy cop movie, but they're just like writing a lot. They're like in offices. They're not like in the field anymore. Right. They're like those old, like
I think that would be
veteran lieutenants where they're just like,
I think it would be a funny cartoon if we had Washington and Hamilton as crime fighters.
Yeah.
Buddy cop style. Just riding around the streets of New York.
Hey, if one or more of our listeners are creative and can make a poster for a Washington Hamilton buddy cop movie or superhero movie,
hilarious.
That would be amazing. We will tweet you. We will put you on the website. That would be hysterical. So please do it, because now
how cute is that?
It's awesome.
Okay,
they're buds. I love it. But it's nice that Chernow ends it with they totally balance each other out. Washington was always kind of like, Ham, would you calm down for a minute?
Yep.
And Ham was always very encouraging of Washington when he needed a little push.
Yeah. And in the end, they just really wanted the same thing.
Right.
They wanted to see the 13 states become one single happy nation.
One big happy family.
One big hap.
Oh, poor Washington. He didn't think political parties needed to exist. The poor guy. If he could see us now.
If only.
Yeah. But I like that that this is sort of a trend.
Yeah.
That they always sort of come back to each other.
It's very sweet.
Yeah. And speaking of the Reynolds pamphlet, another moment in the show that really that stood out to me was when Washington comes on stage during the Reynolds pamphlet. He is like so disappointed and just like, and Chris Jackson just performs it in the most perfect way. He just sort of comes in and just like,
I know, like really let me down.
Really?
Ugh.
Well. Oh man! I feel like every time we try to end on a happy note, or for the last couple episodes, we somehow
the gloom and doom.
Yeah. Well, guess what? I guess the 9th or 10th time was a charm, because I was watching obsessively my computer to make sure that we didn't cut out again.
I won't believe it until I hear it.
I know, me too. But that can be our happy note, that we got through it.
We got through it.
There was a moment where I was kind of thinking, is it just not going to happen today?
I was pretty convinced that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And because I've been here for like 3 hours already.
I know.
And
well, we weren't trying to record for...
We were trying to record for 2.
Yeah. Not for some reason, not 3 is more important.
I mean, we were just bullshitting for that first hour and stuff, but we did it though. We did it.
Oh man.
This is
You want to cheers again in our dueling shot glasses?
clinkety clink.
There we go. Thank you everybody so much for listening. I'm sorry if this episode is all over the place. I'll try to edit it the best I can. You can find everything about us at on thehamilcast.com, plus our show notes, which we're going to start uploading.
Yeah.
You can find my show, The Residuals, at theresiduals.tv. I am at Gillian with a G on everything.
I'm _Bianca Jean _ on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at the Hamilcast, thehamilcast@gmail.com if you want to drop us an email. We're the Hamilcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you'd like to leave us an iTunes review, that would be fantastic as well.
That would be great.
If you're enjoying the podcast.
Yeah.
It'd help us out a lot.
Yeah. And I love the emails. The emails are so fun.
We love it.
I know.
We love the emails, the tweets.
I know.
The everythings.
Bianca is doing dance moves as she's... One day we have to venture... I know this is going to be famous last words. One day we have to venture into video to just record just our little moves. And
I just randomly throw a leg in the air.
Yeah. Just, you know what? I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. And hopefully this podcast will continue. I don't know. We want it to so badly, but the...
Gillian's computer doesn't seem to want us to be successful.
Today especially.
Just today especially.
I didn't do anything different.
No.
It's very
see it,
weird.
though. I'm watching it right now. It's recording.
I'm staring at it. Oh, God. All right. Well, let's sign off before it just explodes. Because I feel like it's just going to start flashing, and then the flashes are going to get louder and brighter, and then it's just going to start smoking, and it's going to be a problem.
And that will be the end of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for listening. I'm sorry. I just feel like I want to apologize. We will talk to you guys soon. Tweet us, email us,
All the
reach
things.
out to us, all the things. I am G.Pen.
I'm B.So.